We're now going to look at analytic methods. And there's not a whole lot that I'm going to say here about analytic methods because it's so extensive. But we will talk about different types of analytics that you can do and different issues to deal with in analytics in later portions of the course. But this is where the data scientist is going to be selecting the algorithms, the methods, the parameters, is going to be looking at how the data was trained. Do we have enough data? They're going to assess bias according to that bias chart we looked at earlier. They're going to verify that the algorithm is doing what it's supposed to be doing. They're going to validate that it actually applies to the requirements as we thought. They're going to interpret the findings, and they're going to be having some feedback into the data engineer about, hey, have I got the data I need? Is it in the right format? Am I accessing it okay? They're going to have to go back to the domain expert to say, hey, is this actually meeting the business problems? Is this what you're expecting? They're going to have to talk to the visualization expert about, like, how are we going to communicate these findings and outputs to the customer? What do you really need to see? And as they identify new opportunities, this is where a team is going to have to work together to get to the ultimate output. The last step is the deployment. And so the deployment is where we're talking about what do we do with all of the first three steps? How do we communicate it to clients, decision makers? How do we infuse it into a larger system so that we can deliver value at scale? There are a lot of things that go into deployment. And this is just an example from an article a few years ago where you talk about what goes into delivering an AI model. There's everything from configuration of the system to collecting data, what features are you using, the verification, the hardware, what type of analysis are you going to do? Okay, you have an algorithm that works on a little bit of data. How are you going to scale that to work on a streaming flow of data pipeline? Where are you going to host it? What tooling are you going to use? What service infrastructure are you using? How are you monitoring that for drift? In all of those boxes, as you can see, the actual machine learning algorithm is perhaps the smallest piece. And so when we're looking at deployment, we have to look at all of these systems and bring them together in an actual deliverable system. And sometimes this can take a larger portion of the resources. Typically, we do road to scope out a requirement and say, hey, this is the proof of concept, this will work. And that spins into an agile process for scaling it and delivering it in an at-scale software deployment. We also haven't talked much about human and machine teaming. And I just wanted to show this from a great book by some of my former Accenture colleagues on human-machine teaming. There are some activities that are human only, and there are some activities that are machine only. And we're trying to identify what some of those are, there, right? Humans are probably leading, creating, improvising, making judgments, whereas machines are doing transactions, iterations, predictions, those sorts of tasks. There are some tasks where humans enable machines. So this is where a human is helping a machine do better. Training AI algorithms, explaining AI algorithms, that's the ethical piece, right? Sustainability, sustaining them, making sure that they are continuing to operate as intended. But there are other areas where humans aren't enabling machines, the machines are augmenting humans, and that's where we're amplifying judgment, or we're doing interaction, or we're embodying some sort of process or doing some sort of automation. And so I think when we look at these human-machine alliances, it's important to recognize that there's a spectrum. And when we think about how the system is going to be deployed, it may feed back in and affect the requirement up front. And that is, before you start the project, have you thought about how we're deploying the system? And have you gone back and thought about what that means for the requirement, what that means for operationalizing data, what that means for the algorithms that are chosen, and make sure that that entire ROAD is defined before you start going down an analytic process. If you don't, you're going to miss out on the benefit of minimizing rework and keeping a focused team that's going to speed up the development process. I'm Dr. Ian McCullough. Thank you for tuning into this lecture.